Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today we are going to be doing a little bit of a blast from the past, not too far back though, but we are going to be reviewing the Lego Corner Garage. This is the 2019 modular building. I missed out on it when it was first on store shelves, but I decided to finally pick it up on Facebook Marketplace, so if you haven't checked that video out yet, I highly recommend you do so. I'll put that in the top right for you, because I didn't just get this set, I got a couple other ones as well, which I'm also really excited to build. But in this video, we are going to be focusing on this. This is set number 10264 and comes with 2,569 pieces. And as you can see, it's obviously a corner unit, and it comes with the truck as well as a number of minifigures as well as a Vespa. So I'm really excited to build this. I'm really excited to add this to the city. We might have to modify some of the layout, but we're going to worry about that later. I need to get this built first. So with that being said, I'm going to open this up for you. I'm going to unbox it, and I'll show you guys what's inside. All right, so after unboxing the set, you'll notice that there are a number of bags here that go up through numbers 1 through 6. And so there are 3 bag 1s, there are 3 bag 2s, and then there are 3 bag 3s, and then 4 bag 4s, 5 bag 5s, and 2 bag 6s. And then you also obviously get the base plate, the instruction manual, and then these 2 gray plates were just free floating in the box. Now, all of this stuff is going to go towards not just the building, but also the truck and then everything else included as well. So I'm really excited to get building this. I'm not going to do a time lapse because the set's been out for over 6.5 years now. So if you want to see a time lapse, you can go ahead and check out a different video. But be sure to come back for my thoughts on this set, as well as seeing all of the details about it and where we end up placing it in the city. So with that being said, I'm going to show you guys the completed product right now. All right, so here is the corner garage done. This build was actually pretty entertaining from start to finish, and so I'm pretty happy with how it looks. It is pretty small, and I will touch on a lot of my other thoughts about it later. But to start with just the facts of the build, obviously you get the 32 by 32 base plate and the build on top, plus this truck here, which we will look at after we have taken a look at the entire building. And so I'm going to kind of give a 360 spin of a generic overview of the whole thing, and then we're going to go into detail about each floor. So basically what you can see is that the bottom floor is a mix of gray on the left, and then dark green, dark red, and white in the middle and on the right there for the actual garage portion of the build. And it is dark orange and sand blue for the top 2 floors. And I think it's actually a really nice color combination. I think that looks really good. And surprisingly, it works for me way better than I was expecting it to. And the yellow signs above the garage as well as the gas pump are a nice touch as well. And this gas pump is actually a fairly nice detail as well. So that looks pretty good. And then this garage here, we will punch in closely in just a second to show you how that works. But this is one of the camera unfriendly sides here, as you can see. And so this doesn't look that great because there is a mechanism built into the wall here, along with this section here, and then a couple of other snot bricks and things built in. But overall, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't look too bad. And then you come to the fourth and final side here, and this is essentially the same. This wall looks decent, but this wall has a little bit of stuff going on with it, like snot bricks and Technic bricks and things. And so I'll show you what exactly those go to once we get a look at the interior. But this is the back door to the garage itself, and there's a little can out here and then a light over the door, which is pretty nice. And so that is the basic look at the exterior. So now let's punch in and take a look at everything that this set has to offer. All right, so this is what the ground floor looks like up close. And so as you can see, the gas pump here is actually fairly detailed. It is obviously a more retro style of build, but I do think that it looks pretty good. And you can see the little squeegee here to clean your windows. So that is nice to see. And then also coming back this way, you'll see the door to the garage here next to a pair of windows, which each have a tire and then some products in the window. And then this door here leads to a staircase to go up to the veterinarian, which we'll take a look at in just a second. And there is actually a skylight above the garage there, or above the pump, I should say. And then for the garage itself, you'll see a couple lights above that. And then the garage door does actually work. And so this is the actuator for it, and it rolls all the way down. And then it rolls all the way up. And it actually works pretty good. It's fairly smooth. Before I had finished the model and put everything together. I tried the mechanism and it didn't bring the roller back down, which was kind of annoying, but once you actually put everything together and you sandwich it on top with this plate, then everything works a lot better, which is very nice to see. Moving up to the second and third floors here, you can see the gas pump for the skylight for the gas pump down here. And we'll take a look at both of these floors simultaneously because they are fairly similar. And so you'll see a lot of dark orange and sand blue accents for the windows, which I think was actually a really nice touch. I think these colors mesh really well together. And you'll see this bay window here made out of train windscreen pieces, which is really cool to see. And then coming over this way, you can see the Dr. Jones Animal Care printed windscreen piece, which says no snakes on it, which is a nice Indiana Jones reference. And then coming over this way, you'll see a balcony on the second floor for patrons that are waiting. And then this is just a window up here for the third floor. And so that is fairly simple, but it is quite effective. And there's a lot of intricate detail in here with these double sloped pieces along with the quarter round tiles, and then also the foliage and other things like that. So I think this actually came together really nicely. And then just to note, as you see on the left here, this is only 8 studs wide here. And then it has the diagonal portion. And then this side over here is only 12. So there's a lot of open space on this base plate here. But now let's start taking a look at the interior to see how that small space gets filled. All right, so moving to the interior of the corner garage here, you can see that I'm gonna kind of spin it around for you and try and show you everything as best as I can. These walls are extremely tall, but since we're here, actually, I'm gonna show you, this is the mechanism for what is inside here. And you're probably wondering what exactly this is, but if you drive a car through the door here and it ends up on the section right there that you can see with the Technic, then you can press this lever in and it will raise up your vehicle, which is actually a really neat feature. It's really simple and it is very discreet as well. So that is really nice to see. It just looks like a trash can outside or something. And so that works. It works pretty good. And I think it looks really nice. And then those are the things that you saw in the window there. And then the cash register next to this is the door right here, as you can see. And then there's a dollar bill or $100 bill on the desk there. The desk is fairly small, but it doesn't really need to be any bigger. And then there's a couple of tools and pieces of equipment in the back here underneath the stairs. And then that's it. That is unfortunately everything in the first floor here. There's no wall between the staircase and here, so there's not even a railing, so people could fall off if they're not careful. But there is a step there to make it kind of look like you can walk from here up, which I guess makes sense, but then why would you have a door here as well? So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but you can also see how the gas pump cover is connected to this area here, and you can kind of start to see how this was built up as well with cylinder bricks and the 1x2 rounded plates. And then coming over this way is the garage. And so you can take the tire here that's on the outside and you can spin this, and this works very well. It's reliable, it's good, it's smooth, and I just think it works great. So if you don't have this set, I highly recommend you check out the instructions for this online. Lego has them for free on their website. So definitely check that out if you're interested in seeing how this works. And so the second floor is only attached by a couple of studs, so it's a fairly easy connection to get on there. And so now that it's on, let's go and take a look inside. So this is the footprint of the floor here. And so as you can see, the stairs come up from under here, and then you can walk around and then come through this way. And then there's another staircase up to the third floor. And then over here is that balcony that I showed you earlier. And then over here is the couch and also the waiting area. I think it's easier if I just take this off. So over here is a couch and then a little chair as the waiting room for the veterinarian. And so as you can see, there's a little table in the middle and then a parrot here and then a nice plant. And this is a better look at the sign on the front where it says Dr. Jones, Animal Care, no snakes. So that's a pretty neat detail. And then the wall here is at a nice angle with the door on it. And then there's a printed tile, which I think is from Friends. Looks like Heart Lake City there. And then there's a fish tank in there, and you can actually see the fish is connected to the wall there. That's what the medium nougat Technic brick is for. So that's pretty neat. And then on the other side, you can also see the fish, and it actually juts out a half stud on either side. So that is pretty neat. And then this is a nice print as well. I think that helps add detail to the walls there. And then here is a little table for animals to sit down, and then the doctor or veterinarian has his stuff here, and you have a bunch of tools. And then coming over to the other side, he has a desk with a pretty oversized lamp that kind of looks like the Pixar one, and then a newspaper, and then a piece of mail, and a coffee mug. And then this dog just came with the set, and I decided to throw it in here. But you can put that anywhere you want in the set. And then here is the heating lamp for the frog, and then a couple of different supplies like a water pump, a water bottle, and then maybe some like snacks and things like that. So this is the entire veterinarian office and also the entire second floor. But I do think that the details here are good, and I think the space is used really well as well. When you compare it to the first floor, which is a fairly open concept and it doesn't really have a lot going on with it, even when you put a vehicle in this area here, it still leaves a lot to be desired, I think. But overall, I do think that the second floor is a much better use of space. And so once again, the third floor only has a couple of studs attached to it, so it is fairly easy to connect. But with that being said, I'm going to take it right back off and we can take a look inside. So here is the third floor here, and so as you can see, you come up the stairs here, and then you come around and there's a couch here. And the couch on the second and third floors are both used as a railing, or I guess in place of one, so that people don't fall down the stairs. And then across from the couch is this pretty retro looking TV, which I think is pretty neat, and it has the antenna on top. And then coming around this way is a bed. This bed doesn't look very comfortable, to be totally honest with you. Is not a very normal bed, if I want to call it that. It looks like a hospital bed, if I had to put a name to it. It looks like a hospital bed, and I don't think it really belongs in an apartment. But for what it is, I think it's fine, and the build was pretty neat, but I don't know if it belongs in a residential home like that. But there is a little truck on the wall and also a printed rock and roll print there, the 2x2 tile. And then there's a clock on the wall above the kitchen. And then you have the hot and cold water, as you can see, and then some tools, utensils up on the wall, and then some counter space, and then a bowl underneath, and then a stove and oven right there, which is pretty good. And this person even has cookies in the oven as well. So it's pretty neat detail. And then in this corner here is actually a bathroom. So you can open this up and you can see the toilet in there, and it has a piece of toilet paper on the ground, which is a pretty neat detail. And then that is pretty much everything for this room here. There's not really a lot to talk about, but the snot bricks here hold up parts of the bathroom or the toilet, and then the clock. And then this tan piece here is for the utensils on the wall. So that is it. There's no balcony on this one. It's just a windowsill. And then the windowsill continues over this way. But these two do have flowers, whereas the second floor does not. And then the bay window is the same design as the second floor. So with that, we can move on to the roof right now. And then once again, the roof has the exact same connection points, so there's nothing really difficult about that. And I will show you guys the few, but actually pretty nice details on it right now. So as you can see, the details are pretty limited, and this is where the staircase comes up, which I think is actually a pretty nice build. It's pretty built up, and there's a roof on it, so that is nice to see that there is coverage for that on all sides there. And then the only really other details here is this lounge chair and an umbrella with a print on it, and then this little flower bed right here. So there's not a lot going on here. There's a fair amount of open space here, so if you wanted to, you could put figures up here, or you can have like a little rooftop party or something like that. But there's not much to talk about here. So with that, we can move on to looking at the truck and then the minifigures. We can take a look at the extra pieces, and then we can talk about my final thoughts about the set. And so this is the truck right here. And so as you can see, it is actually a fairly nice build. It's not too terribly long, but I do think that it looks pretty good, and it's pretty in scale with stuff as well. And this can actually roll through the gas pump as well. I don't think 8 wide cars would fit, but this works pretty nicely. And then taking a look at some of the details on it, instead of just driving it around, you can see it has a nice blue and dark blue color scheme with a hint of black on it. And then there is the bar up at the front there, which is a nice touch. And the engine hood actually comes off. It's just one piece under here, but in theory, it's actually a really nice design. And so there is not much else to talk about with the front here. But on the inside, you can see the figure is sitting there. It has space for one figure on that red seat. And then there is a red steering wheel and also a grill up at the front, but that's just a modified brick right there. And then the mirrors on either side here are built up and they actually look pretty good, which I think is nice. And then the star of the show is on the back here. The hitch actually moves up and down. You can turn this gear and you can see how it works in here. And it actually works good and it looks really nice as well. I think this is a very nice, not only play feature, but also a display feature. The gears and the mechanism here looks really good. And then obviously you can move the hook around as needed. So there's not much else to talk about here. There's no stickers for a license plate or anything, but I don't think it needs it. So with that, we can take a look at the minifigures and take it from there. And so here are the 6 figures included in the set. So you can see there are 5 adults and 1 kid. And then there are 2 mechanics to work in the garage, and they share the same torso and leg prints, as you can see. And then the veterinarian here. And then there is the Vespa driver. The Vespa is in medium azure. I didn't really touch on this in the video, but it is here, and I think it's a nice inclusion as well. You can bring that into the shop. And then, so there is this figure here, and then just a patron or the person that lives on the 3rd floor. It's up to you. And then the kid on the left. And so only 2 of the 6 figures have alternate faces. And so I'll kind of just take the hair pieces off and show you what the back prints look like as well. And I do think that these figures are perfectly fine for what they are. And I think that they are generic enough, except for obviously the veterinarian there. But I think they're generic enough to where you can add them into any part of your city. You don't have to keep them with this set here. These were the extra pieces for the model, and there's actually quite a lot here, and the set was pretty large, so I guess that makes sense, and there were no stickers for the set. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the corner garage next to some of the other modular buildings that LEGO has made. And I'm not going to go through every single modular building, but I am going to pick out a couple of highlights, namely from 2023 to 2025, and then also a couple of others throughout the years as well, like the 2017 Assembly Square, which was also advertised with the corner garage, and also 2015's Detective's Office. That is probably the combination that I'm interested in the most. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to bring over those buildings, and we can take a look right now. So first up here is 2025's Tudor Corner next to the corner garage on the right here. And I personally am not a huge fan of this. I like the blue with the haberdashery. I think that looks good next to the orange from the corner garage. But this is a miss for me personally. I'm not a fan of this section right here with the black sloped roof coming up against this. And I also think the juxtaposition between the dark red Tudor style roof over here compared to the more American style of structure on the right doesn't really mesh that well, but this isn't that bad of a combination. And so if I had to put 2 corners back to back, this actually is not a terrible option. Now this orientation of the 2 buildings works way less for me. I am not a fan of this. The balcony on the Tudor corner has no breathing room right here, as you can see. And then this staircase is right next to the garage, which I guess isn't the worst thing in the world, but it doesn't really do it any favors, so I'm not a fan of this right here. Now, here is the 2024 Natural History Museum next to the corner garage here, and the museum on the left and the garage on the right doesn't really work for me. I do like how the fence for the museum is actually lined up with the wall of the corner garage right down here behind the lamppost, but unfortunately, as it falls over, unfortunately, the tree doesn't look that great there. I don't think the pink and the orange colors really mix that well. And also you see a lot of the brackets and other things like that on the side of the wall. So that doesn't really work for me. But the other side of this, though, actually works better than I expected it to. The concept of a garage right next to the museum doesn't really make sense. But I think the sidewalk placement and how the fence is lined up, I really think that actually works. Here we have 2023's Jazz Club next to the corner garage, and I think in theory this works great because these are both American-inspired buildings and the colors actually seem to match really well. However, there is a lot of warmer tones here, and also the pizzeria is so far back, and this part of the corner garage is so narrow that I don't know if this really works all that great. But this orientation here with the Jazz Club on the right actually works a lot better for me, and I think this looks really, really good. So this is definitely a top contender if I were to rearrange my city layout. Here's 2021's police station next to the corner garage, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of this orientation here. I am not a fan of how the sand green building gets swallowed up by the corner garage, and I'm also not a fan of how you can't see the billboard anymore. So that is a miss from me. I thought this could look pretty good because they're both American-inspired buildings, but flipping it around the other way, as you can see, I like the depth on the sidewalk that's here, but unfortunately, it's just I don't think the colors work for me. I don't think the purple looks very good, or the lavender looks very good next to the dark orange. Next up is 2017's Assembly Square, and in this orientation here, I don't like the medium nougat next to the dark orange. I don't think that works for me. It's just too much of a similar color, and it doesn't really work all that great. And so flipping it around the other way, the colors work for me, but the garage sticks out a little too much, and then the corner garage, like the second and third floors, are a little too far back. So you see part of the side of the building on the left there. And so I'm not a huge fan of that. But moving on to the detective's office here, as you can see in this orientation, this is the combination of buildings that I was excited for the most. And it has lived up to that hype. I think the blues work fantastic next to this. And I really think that the depth is almost perfect here. But switching it around to the other side, you can see, again, the same problem that I had with the Assembly Square, which was the medium nougat next to the dark orange. So that's a miss from me personally, but I just wanted to show you guys a few of the options here. Obviously, I could go through all of these buildings, but I'm not going to do that just for the sake of time. And I'm sure eventually, once I get through rearranging my city a number of times, a lot of these combinations will happen anyways. All right, so after going through the entire set as a whole and also taking a look at the side build and also the 6 minifigures in the set, now is the time to talk about the value of this and also the price. The set retailed back in 2019 for $180 US, and I bought it on Facebook Marketplace from an individual seller, and I paid $300 for it, and that included shipping. So in all fairness, considering the rate of how this modular building is currently priced online, $300 is actually not a bad deal. Most places, most sellers you can find on Bricklink sell this for about $300 to $320, and then you have to pay for shipping on top of that. So getting it for $300 shipped was actually a pretty good deal, all things considered. But overall, this is definitely not one of the best modulars out there. I do think that this can round out a corner very nicely, but the building footprint is extremely small. I did a little bit of math, and the base plate is 32 by 32 studs, which is 1,024 studs. Now, I went ahead and I took the roof here, and I counted every single stud on here. And so there are 391 studs on this roof here. Now, granted, the first floor where the garage actually is has a little bit of an extra jet out here. So this is a 4x12 section right here. So if you add an additional 48 studs, that would get you to 439 total studs for the footprint of the building. So that is less than 43% of the entire base plate being taken up by a building. The rest of that is either sidewalk out front, and granted there is some play feature here and some display value in putting the truck underneath the gas pump and then kind of going from there. And there is also this back here. So this whole section here is essentially dead space. There is a little bit of detail here, and it does also hold the action feature that is on the inside of the garage, but unfortunately, this is just a small building. There's no two ways about it, and that's just really unfortunate. I do like this. It's grown on me a lot. When I first saw the pictures of this back in 2019, and when I had the option to get this in 2021, I ultimately decided to pass on it and get the police station instead. I do still think that the police station is a better build. That's why I had chosen it at the time and ultimately decided to miss out on this one. But as I've seen it over time in other people's layouts next to different buildings, like you saw earlier, next to the detective's office and others like that, I actually started to really like it, and it started to grow on me. And so this became one of the buildings that I had wanted to add to my collection. But as a modular building, I don't think it stands out in any way, shape, or form. Now, it's not to say this is a bad set, but I wouldn't say that this is on the same playing field as some of the other modular buildings that are more beloved, like the Parisian Restaurant or the Boutique Hotel, or even the new Tudor Corner for 2025. And so with that, there's not really much else to talk about here. Obviously, I would love to see more with this set here. I would love to see more interior details, especially on the ground floor. It seems a little lacking. but I do understand the open concept of it, so you can actually roll a vehicle in. And I do understand that the only vehicle included is the tow truck. I think that makes sense for a garage, but it would have obviously been a really nice play feature and also addition to the set if you had a car to tow and also put in the garage. But I understand that constraints are a thing and that it's not really realistic. And also, this came out in 2019, and the 2018 modular, which was the downtown diner, came with a car that you could actually connect to this tow truck here. And they did show that in some of the marketing photos back then. And so, like I said, I don't really have much else left to say about it, so I'm just going to kind of end the video here. I do think that this is a good building, but it's definitely more of a filler building as opposed to a statement piece like some of the other buildings that LEGO has made. So with that, that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this informative or at the very least entertaining, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads, like when we go ahead and integrate this into the LEGO City. If you guys have any feedback for me on if you have this building or if you were considering picking it up, make sure to drop your comments down below to let me know. But once again, seriously, thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.